Good afternoon or morning or wherever you are and find yourself on this South African winter's day. I'm Melina Lewis and you are listening to the I Work For Me podcast. And today we are very excited to have JoyAnne King, who we can just call Joy because she is quite joyful, in the house. And we're going to be chatting to her about all her adventures and all her businesses, of which there are many, and they are exciting and beautiful and wholesome. And yeah, when I had heard that I was going to be able to chat to Joy, I was thrilled because we had met by chance at a friend, and now that I have her details, yeah, now she'll be on speed dial. But without further ado, let's jump straight in and let me introduce to you Joy. Hello, Joy.
Hi, Melina.
Thank you so
nice
much
to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. Joy, I always start with a little kind of silly question, which is really, what was it that you originally wanted to be when you were a little girl and someone said to you, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was that thing that you wanted to be?
I wanted to be a teacher. I think that's kind of way through my life. Recently, though, I remembered that when I was a little girl, I remembered in a very religious Christian home, very strict conservative Christian home, and it dawned me to surround myself with my tribe of dolls and serve communion to them, because it was so much a part of my life. And it dawned on me that aside from being a teacher, I think I also wanted to be some kind of priest. And so yeah, those are probably the two things that has come through the most.
Fantastic. Okay, so you wanted to be possibly a priest or a high priestess and a teacher. So how has that ended up evolving as you've grown? Do you find that you're still teaching, and what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, it's exactly those two things are actually exactly what I'm doing as a 48-year-old woman today. Interestingly, the teaching aspect really came through quite a lot with my children. I homeschooled them and when we brought her home from school, and 23 now, and Zara, who's 17, she's never been to school. So it's been at least 18 years of homeschooling. And I love sharing information with people. I love learning new things. And I have a deep love for spirituality and the way it impacts us, and also how we grow and transform. And everything that I learn, I love to package it and put it in a way other people can understand it. So I'm not at that. I think I've got a lot of training in that as a homeschooling mom. But also I have a deep passion for women and just women's journeys. And so yeah, in everything that I do these days, there's always an element of teaching. And then in terms of priestess-like work, I guess I hold circles for women. I didn't mention that in my thingy that I wrote up for you, Melina, but I do run circles for women as well, and very much connected to the moon or cycles, and that and just allowing for reflection and connection with one another in group work, but also with ourselves individually. So yeah, I feel like those are actually things that I'm living today, which is really awesome.
That is amazing. And you are 100 steps ahead of me in terms of being able to homeschool your children. My children would protest with placards if I had to teach them all the time. It was, we just got through, you know, that phase of COVID, and they're back at school. And even though they're back for a short time, they are so glad. So yeah, well done to you for doing it for 18 years. I'm just curious now, what drove you to decide to homeschool your kids?
So Rachel was around 4, so Rachel's my oldest, and there's 17 months between her and Eden. And when Rachel was around 4 years old, I met my first homeschooling family. So this was in the year 2000, and they lived locally around here, and I was just fascinated by the lifestyle. I also knew deep inside that Rach needed something different in terms of growing up. Just not that she's one of the keenest minds, super artistic and creative, but it was as though I was afraid. I was really afraid of trusting my heart at that time. And so we sent her and Eden to school. They went to the local primary school, and I watched Rachel become more and more a shadow of herself, so that by the time she was 9 years old, she had always had this freedom of creativity. By the time she was 9, she couldn't even draw stick figures. In fact, she was so doubtful of herself that in an art class, she would ask her teacher to draw whatever it was. She didn't have any confidence in herself. And that was a reflection of, no, it wasn't just her art, but it was a reflection of her being. And I watched more and more as she just became smaller and smaller, trying to fit into the square peg, into the round hole that she was, and she was just not fitting into that. And it was interesting because it was the June holidays, and 2005, and they said to me, "Mom, we want you to homeschool us." And I had put it aside. It wasn't something that I was even thinking about at that time. But there was something about the way they said it to me that made me like sit up and say, "Okay, I think the time is right." And we handed in our notice at the primary school. Zara was a new baby. And they didn't go back after the September school holidays. They stayed home. And I'd done a bit of research, and I'd found that for every year they'd been at school, I needed to give them a month off to basically unlearn the system.
Okay.
And so for Rach, she was in grade 2, and so grade 3, I can't remember now. And so for me, it was September, October, December, perfect. January, we could start in Jan. So I just read a lot, and we played a lot, and I took them out, and Eden is just hungry for knowledge, and she's living at school. And in fact, the day I went and spoke to their teachers, Eden's teacher she was saying to me, you realize that Eden's going to be missing out on so many awards at the end of the year. She's an student. Why would you take her out now? And I think there was this part of me that just said, can't as a mother allow titles to come between them, because Rachel worked really, really hard for no acknowledgement within that system, whereas Eden was made for that system in a sense. And so she didn't have to work hard at all, and yet she was being rewarded. I felt innately within myself that was an unfair reward system, and that it would, in the long term, break down their relationship, and I didn't want that. So I decided to take both of them up and meet each one of them individually. So with Rach, I backed off completely, and I didn't give her any work to do, whereas Eden, I found everything I possibly could and just gave it to her so that she could get drunk on information.
Okay, so essentially you found that for your girls it was so much better and so right for them, and you can see it, the proof's in the pudding, right, in terms of who they are today and what they're doing with their lives. And do you find that the two girls who are quite different in the way that they learn and express themselves in the world have gone quite different paths?
They have, in fact. So where Rach as a child was this, we always thought she would be the artist. Eden is actually the artist today.
Oh, wow.
She does a lot of, She does the most beautiful sculptures. She does illustrations. She's an incredible writer. She does content writing for some social media accounts.
Right.
Rachel did that for a while, but her passion is women's health, fertility awareness, really, for her peers. And so she runs courses and coaches young women to come off the hormonal birth control, and she teaches them about their bodies and their cycles and so on. Zara is 17, and she's getting ready to write her exams now. So yeah.
Oh, shame. Is she writing matric?
Well, no, she's writing the American
okay.
version, which can be done online, and yeah, so that's all good.
Great, yeah. So they sorted. They are ready for this new world that we are existing in. That's fantastic and amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So that obviously took a large chunk of your time, but it doesn't mean that you haven't progressed your abilities as well. So can you share with us all the other things that you do?
Okay, so I practice as a doula. A doula is a labor and birth companion. I also work as a shiatsu massage therapist. And those are the two things after my divorce 5 years ago. Those are the two things that I had trained for alongside working, homeschooling my children. And so I did that for a while. But I realized there was just one day where I realized that in order to do this work, I need to be healthy all the time. My body, because this is both jobs are very much related to my body being present in order to do the work. And it occurred to me that this wouldn't always be the case. And what if I had flu, or, just something where I needed to be laid up in bed for a few days? Every hour that I lay was an hour that I wasn't earning money. Right. And at the time, a friend and I had started an essential oil business. I've always been a lay student of natural health. Really, I guess since I became a mom, it was just a very natural thing for me to do. And so essential oils had always been part of my life and their lives. But then about 6 years ago, I was introduced to a therapeutic grade essential oil that could be used a little bit like medicine, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, basically not for its pretty smells, but actually for its therapeutic value. And I just dove deep and wide into that particular form of medicine. And so these days, I have a business within a larger organization, my own business within a larger organization, which is multiple streams, in that the one is I educate people about essential oils and how it works in the body, training up and other women around me as well. And I find that super fulfilling and humbling.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. And so is that like, because I mean, it seems as like essential oils, which are ancient in terms of medicine, but it seems like there's been this big kind of revival or new age business that has kind of hit the scene, doTERRA, and I know there's another one. And it seems as though it's become like a big thing, but I would say more in the last 2 years. And you say you've been doing this for kind of like over 6 already. So Joy, could you tell us how you got into the essential oils business?
Sure. So about 6 years ago, my friend Christina, she's actually American. They moved here with their family about 8 years ago. And doTERRA has an arm called the Healing Hands Foundation, which is really like their NPO, their nonprofit side of the organization. And they, 6 years ago, they gifted her for her little project that she runs in Ocean View. They gifted her all kinds of essential oils, basically like 2 suitcases full of essential oils and diffusers and resources, etc. And they also took 2 weeks to come and teach her about them and how to use them. Her project in Ocean View is called the Havala Collective.
Okay.
And it really is, she also has, similar to me, a real passion for women and the empowerment of women. And Ocean View, for those people, those of your listeners who don't know Ocean View, it's a severely economically depressed part of our local community, and gang-ridden and drugs and everything. And the women there, it's a very, very, very hard space to live as a human being, let alone singled out as a female.
Mm.
And the Havila Collective is supported by doTERRA in that they just basically make sure that they always have stock. Annually, they just get gifted all kinds of beautiful stock. And whether it's the gang member who has a stab wound in his hand, or the mom whose daughter has been found raped and murdered, everyone in the community knows that they can come to this space and that there's healing and support and non-judgment for them.
Wow.
And so it just fills me with such joy and such gratitude to know that I am part of a really big story on a greater scale outside of this country. I mean, we're involved with Operation Underground Railroad, which is an anti-human trafficking arm as well, or organization. And yeah, so our introduction to doTERRA was not necessarily about the oils or even about the business. It was about the help and the change that it would bring to communities. And so that is something very, very deep that still drives us. What is really lovely about wellness advocates across the world, there are about 8 million of us now on every continent. South Africa is the first on the African continent.
Right.
On every one of those continents, there are the most incredible projects that have been set up by women like yourself and me.
So, Joy, in terms of, moving from just mom who was teaching, and I say just, and that's so wrong, so please excuse me, I don't mean it like that, like just mom who spends all her time at home teaching her children, which I couldn't do. So it's not meant in that way, but from going from teaching kids at home to then moving on to your own interests, your own kind of career choices, the doula work, the massage, the oils. Did you transition? Did they happen? How did that all come about? How did you fit everything into your life?
Well, so it's been a process. So in the beginning, it was just doula and shiatsu. I had promised my children that I wasn't going to disappear from their lives and chase a 9-to-5 just to pay the bills. It was also a promise I made to myself that I was only going to do what I loved. And I know that that's a lot of people over the years have said, well, not everybody has the luxury of doing that, but it's been a real deep driver inside of me to only do what I love, because I knew doing anything else would just kill me. It would dry me up and I would be so unhappy, and I would have to make that change at some point. So even if it meant eating oats at night for dinner, I remember one night having gourmet oats because we had a lint bar, a lint slab, and oats, and I just put the chocolate in. I was like, hey, we got gourmet oats tonight. And it was just one of those things. I think the girls they were older. They were 17, 16, and 12. They understood what was happening. They were somehow as committed to the journey as I was. And so in the beginning, it was very much, I had people obviously come to, I worked from home. I was still around so that they could, I could still be there to help facilitate with them with their schooling, although the older two didn't really need it as much anymore. But yeah, so I literally just had my appointments around them, and then slowly started integrating a more structured business in terms of hours needed for engaging with people regarding the essential oil business. And yeah, it's been a massive learning curve for me. I had to upskill in many ways, because I hadn't done anything else during that. I had done a bit of counseling with women at the local church that we were part of. I'd always been connected in that way, but I remember the day Christina and I, we had some products on the Faithful to Nature organic online store, and I remember the day they sent us an email saying, okay, so for all your products we're going to need barcodes, etc. And I remember like staring at that email and going, where the heck do we get barcodes from? Who do we talk to? And it was just such one of those moments of, wow, I'm really needing to dig deep here, and just, kind of felt like we had thrown ourselves off the edge and we didn't quite know where we were going to land. Very grateful to have had a sister partner who I could kind of do this with, but also just realizing that, yeah, this is part of my journey, and I'm growing and I'm growing and I'm growing. And I just feel that just the whole journey has just taught me that we can never say that it's too late to do anything. I was 42 when I left my marriage, and it's taken 6 years for me to get to this place where I am today, where I do less doula work and less shiatsu work, and I have the luxury of picking my clients now, the ones that I only really want to work with, because I do so little of it. Right. Because the essential oil business has taken off and it's exploding, and I'm full on doing that. I'm still at home, I'm still around my youngest daughter, but I'm very much working. And so I've decided that on Fridays are my days that I do my spiritual work, or my work that connects me to energy healing, that connects me to people on a like face-to-face healing kind of way. And the rest of the week I give to doTERRA. And it's working out. It's really working out, because I would have hated to have started missing out on this other part of that really just brings me so much life. But at the moment I'm needing, that's the balance that I'm needing to put into place. So it's been a learning curve, and it's been a journey, and I'm still learning.
And isn't that great? Isn't that great that you're still learning?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that's super inspiring for people who might find themselves at these kind of crazy times, so maybe someone in a household has lost a job and possibly feeling all down, and oh gosh, I can't go back to doing what I used to do, or I need to start looking for something new. And you did that, as you say, at 42, there you were going, oh my goodness, how does one find a barcode? Thank goodness for Google, I'm sure. But it's very much that thing that you can see that there is opportunity. There are choices that one can make. And you were maybe, in terms of your situation where you were now hungry, literally, figuratively, and wanting to make this happen for yourself. And I think a lot of people might find themselves in that situation too. And it's about turning that hunger not into anger, but more into seeking out some solutions. So that's super inspiring that you were able to do that. I mean, in that process, did you find that there were any failings that you then have learned from, and that you've refined your processes that you think could be helpful to other people?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm failing right now as I speak. It's just there's always something to learn, right? There's always, right. And it's there's the saying, the quote that goes something about it's the person who falls 7 times and gets up the 8th that it's things are going to work out for them. I'm killing that phrase and bashing it around, but basically that's the feeling of fall and get up and fall and get up. and keep doing that, because you're that much closer to whatever it is you're working towards. And I feel like my whole journey so far has been a metaphor for that. Last year in particular, there was something that was happening within my essential oil business where I was absolutely determined for a particular outcome, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. I hadn't slept. It was just go all the time, and only to find that I'd been pushing for an outcome that was way ahead of its time. And the fallout of that was that I was depressed, I was angry, I was mad at myself for going against what my gut knew, but yeah, I just wanted to push through anyway. And as a result, I actually, for about a year, every time I thought about that particular event, I literally felt like PTSD, like all those symptoms coming over me. And I mean, I'm good now, I'm okay now in terms of that, but it's one of those moments where I'm so aware now of allowing for time and being patient rather than pushing for certain outcomes ahead of their time. I'm also I'm a big proponent of trusting your intuition, and there are moments where I have not taken my own advice in that regard. And so yeah, there's also, I'm finding, so presently, like right now this week, it's not a failing, it's really a tightrope walk of trusting my intuition and balancing that with action, and really having to tap into the masculine part of ourselves that is all about action and getting things done, but there's this other part of me that is kind of going, can I really do that? And so no matter how far I've come in the last 6 years, I still have this doubt and insecurity that comes up every now and again that says, who are you, little girl? Who do you think you are? Do you really think you can do this? Yeah, it's just a little thing that I have to deal with. It's one of my little what's the word, Achilles, I guess, in that I do have times where I certainly have to go into myself and find that little girl that's feeling insecure and worried and scared and not sure, because everything I feel that I'm doing at this time it feels like window bashing, like no one's quite gone through this particular road here, but I know that what I'm looking for is on the other side of this. And so what am I going to find along the way, and what are the scary monsters that I'm going to meet along the way? And I guess that's just the journey, and more than anything else, I believe that we do have a North Star within us that drives us, that takes us to where it is we need to be going. I'm just borrowing from Martha Beck there. She's got that book called Finding Your North Star, which was very, very instrumental in my life years ago. So yeah, I just feel like there's this guiding that guides us from the inside, and we just need to continuously tap into that, and even when we are feeling afraid and feeling like we're failing, because I think we also need to just be kind to ourselves and have compassion for ourselves and realize, look at the journey and look how far you've come. And honestly, when I left my marriage, I had this mental block, this limiting belief that said I would never earn more than 10,000 Rand a month, and that anything more than that was almost impossible. And a lot of beliefs were linked to everything that happened from the time I was a little girl, in my family, our culture, everything. And so so just even that little thing, looking back and realizing you have come so far, and to have grace for those moments when I do feel afraid. So
yeah. Oh, there's so much beauty in everything you've said, in from that imposter syndrome stuff, and oh my word, we all get it. I feel like it's I almost want to say, well, it's, if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, how do you not feel like an imposter almost 100% of the time?
Yeah.
But I think it happens also to professionals, you know. I think every now and then there might be a little nagging doubt, you know,
Yeah.
about, gosh, you know, have I advised a client correctly or done the right thing? And so I think you'd
Yeah.
have to be quite a self-righteous schmuck to think that you're right all the time, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so I think we've got to allow ourselves the benefit of the doubt to doubt ourselves. But then, as you say, which I think is fantastic advice, is to kind of go, oh, it's okay, little me, you know, and take the time to maybe pamper or to breathe or to walk on the beach or on the road
Yeah.
or sit in nature and kind of just go, okay, wait a second, it's fine, it's okay, you're doing good, you know. And I
Absolutely.
think that's absolutely wonderful advice. And oh, that thing around money, oh my goodness. I don't know if you know Lisa King. She's a kinesiologist in the Valley, but I feel like you and her should get together. But we'll take that offline. But essentially, there's this huge issue around how we view money. And as you say, it does come from family background, culture, often, and then kind of then, you know, how we wrap our heads around that, you know, tell ourselves stories around money, who should have it, who shouldn't it, and we don't even realize that we are setting those parameters for ourselves. And so definitely want to do a podcast on money limitations or all the things that we haven't explored around money. So thank you for sharing that, you know, around thinking that you're only worth that much monetarily wise when it's not true, you know. And so fantastic, really, really awesome. So, you know, you've shared some of your failings, but tell us a little bit about, you know, what really works for you and your business. What are the things that, like, you know, power you up, and also that you would advise if someone, you know, said to you, cool, I also want to be, you know, a doTERRA consultant, you know, how, like, what should I do? So if you can share that with us.
It's what we call our why, right? What is your big why? And my first big why are my children. It's always going to be right in front of my eyes. I want to be able to really provide for them, even though they're young adults themselves. I still feel that I want to be able to provide them with educational opportunities, and that we haven't really been able to tap into yet. Kind of getting there, but I want to have the freedom for them to go and learn and study the things that they really love. So that is very much in front of myself right now. And then my big why, my very big why, is reaching women and empowering women and leveling. It's all about leveling the playing fields, the economic playing fields for women in our country. And so I'm super passionate about that. And when I became a wellness advocate 6 years ago with doTERRA, and they weren't even in the country yet, they were still they were in the States. And we were literally, between Christina and myself, we were traveling between the two countries, just taking orders and whatever, and growing and learning in the process. At the back of my mind all along has been the fact that as soon as they are here, the opportunity for leveling the playing field is so massive. And the thing that gets me up every single day is my now growing team of women from every kind of background across the country, who I get to walk with hand in hand and help them break past their own limiting beliefs, whatever it is that their demons that they're having to deal with in terms of what's telling them that they're not worthy. And so we're first getting people healthy and taking charge of their health naturally. And once they're in that place, because the other thing about essential oils that I absolutely love is that when you're healthy physically, you're able to be more consciously intentional in working with your emotional and spiritual life. And I'm a personal little testimony of that. Like for a long time, for example, I'll tell you, like the energetic work of lemongrass essential oil, for example, is that it's the oil that is it's a cleansing oil, it's a detoxification oil, but on an energetic level, it literally is like a vacuum cleaner to any toxic baggage that you're carrying around with you. And it's on a mission to just sweep it up and clean it up and say, yeah, this is no longer part of who you are. And so 3 years ago, it was this strange thing that happened was at the time of the divorce, my children kept coming to asking me for geranium essential oil. They just wanted more and more and more of it. And I couldn't understand why. And I went and looked up the energetic aspect of this oil, and I discovered that it's known as the oil of love and trust. And as an oil of love and trust, in the book, the very first paragraph was literally saying something along the lines of, where there's been a break in trust in relationships, geranium heals the heart, and it's a heart healer, and it helps to establish what's been lost between a child and its parent. And my children were intuitively asking for this thing that they needed more of. It was doing the work on a deeper level, on an emotional level. And we've kind of taken it further from that point on, where we do essential oil readings for people. People think it's a little bit weird, but it's the most beautiful thing, where I literally put the oils in front of somebody and help them through a process to choose intuitively what they need. And when we look at the energetic meanings of those oils, more, I'd say 98% of the time, it's exactly where they're at and what it is that they're needing. And so combining that with my team members who are growing in themselves and coming from all kinds of backgrounds, and now we are healthy. I haven't seen a doctor in 5 years. And my children haven't seen a doctor in 5 years. So we're physically healthy, but we also, that makes space for us to go deeper if you want to. And so I'm seeing how limiting beliefs are just being shot out the way, and people are consistently working through these issues. And so what gets me up out of my bed every single day is, number one, my children and what it is that I'm doing for them and my legacy. And number two, the bigger picture of what it is we're doing for women on this continent, and it's starting here. And I am so humbled to feel that I'm part of that big story. And because I believe that we need more of the feminine voice in the world today. We've been shut down far too much over many generations, and this continent is the last one that needs to just express themselves. And so to help women especially get in touch with that voice that says, I am so worthy, I'm going to speak, and I'm going to live in the way that I've always intended to live, without any fear of what anybody could say or do to me. That's my big why.
Sure. Yeah, that is a big why. And it's a beautiful why. And I can see how it totally powers you up, especially in the work that you do, working with women and then giving them the tools to look after themselves physically, which then allows for the emotional aspect, which then also allows for the financial aspect, you know. And as you were saying earlier, that thing of being able to pay your way and make your own money is, you know, what keeps a lot of women back, you know, feeling like they need to rely on a man to provide. Oh no, I can't, you know, the children need X, Y, and Z, or, you know, the excuses. And it's fantastic what you're doing and where you're going. Wow, amazing. It's just, I'm blown away. I really think that having that core why is so important. And I've spoken about it on a few podcasts already, where we talk about core values or your why, same but you know,
Yeah.
making sure that what that is what really and truly drives you, and then building your business around that. And
Yeah.
that's the foundations really, and then the rest just kind of rises up, you know, from that blueprint.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, amazing, amazing. So in terms of building this business, you've got, you know, where you're going, you know what you want to do kind of on a bigger level. Do you set
Mm.
goals in order to kind of take you there? And you know,
Yeah.
and how do you do that?
I think I'm always learning. There's always some kind of training that's available that you can opt to be part of. And so there's just, I love learning anyway. I love learning and then applying. And so that is definitely something I'm always doing. Whether I'm learning about a single oil, or whether I'm learning about the company, or whether I'm learning about emotions and essential oils, I'm learning something all the time, is basically that. So in terms of goals, I have weekly goals. Weekly goals involve connecting with my team leaders at least for an hour a week, one-on-one, where I help them with strategy work, strategy building. What are your goals for this week? And I help them. I'm like an accountability partner to them, and help them also see bigger pictures in terms of what it is. If they're seeing one thing, and having another set of eyes on something is always really handy. And so yeah, so that's that. I have a goal. My other goal is always to have time. So on a Monday morning, I don't take any appointments until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's my first appointment always, and that's because I take Mondays as like a reset button, a spiritual reset button. People do that on Sundays, I guess. I mean, my day is Monday. And that means just being really quiet with myself, journaling. I draw oracle cards for the week. I set intentions. I meditate. I do a bit of yoga, and I slowly, once I've kind of connected with that center, I feel I'm ready to kind of move from that place. And I feel really that when that is in place, I feel that my whole week is just there's intention with everything I'm doing, and it feels good. I like that. So, and I get, I'm on my phone a lot, and so it's really nice for me to be able to have my phone like switched off and away from me just for those first few hours, which feels counterintuitive for a Monday. And I think that's one of the reasons it works for me. So that is a huge part of my life, and it's super important. And then, as I said, also Fridays are the days that I set aside now just for doing my spiritual work. So whether it's energy healing or essential oil readings or whatever that is, just so that I can stay in touch with that. And then, yeah, in terms of the business, the weekly goals, there are monthly goals, and there are annual goals as well, bigger goals that I have. And yeah, the monthly goals are literally all about how many more people can I reach this month with a message of health and wellness that is going to change their lives and blow their minds. And so that's kind of a cool goal to have, moving through your month. And it's always awesome for me to reflect. So this week I'm doing a lot of reflection over this last month and just going, wow, we did some amazing work this month. And people, even right now, busy with the 3-day study that we're facilitating on. It's a mood and stress management study that we're doing with one particular oil. And the feedback that is coming from people across every kind of the diverse group of people across the country, and their lives are literally being changed right now as we speak. And I've been in tears most of this week just reading some of their responses in our closed group. So yeah, these things bring me joy and they motivate me. And I just know that for me, it's just that this is a vehicle for the most incredible growth and change and transformation for people. And so I have tried to leave this work many times because it gets really hard. But I always find I give myself a bit of time. I have colleagues who kind of walk me off the bridge every now and again when I'm ready to jump, and they go, they kind of talk to me and talk gently to me, and I just need a bit of space and I need a bit of time, and I walk away and I think, I don't want to have anything more to do with this. And then it's not even an hour later where I'm like, there's an inner drive that is just drawing me towards what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's drawing me, and I just know that this really just is a vehicle for transformation. And I can't put it into words what it looks like, but I feel it. And so I just feel really, really blessed to be able to be part of that kind of work. So
oh yeah. And aren't you lucky? Because I think
yeah.
A lot of people don't have any joy, like we all at some point in any work that we do want to kind of throw ourselves or the laptop out the window. So everyone has that moment, which I think is perfectly normal, because if it was all hunky-dory, I mean, you'd be in la la land.
It would be weird.
Totally weird. So to have that joy in your work is so special. I kind of want to go back and say I'm almost as green about your Monday mornings as my jersey here, because I just love that idea of starting your Monday just a little bit slow. Whereas, coming from, if I just think back to 10 years ago, that Joburg space of Monday morning, hitting the gym, 5:30 a.m., get your workout done, into the office, glug down the coffee, and then instantly into a status meeting, and boom, boom, boom. And that's how you start the week, power, power, power.
Yeah.
And I think about it now and I'm just exhausted at
just the thought of it. Yeah.
I actually want to weep. And I love your start, which is chuck the phone, and start slowly and connect with yourself, and then take that intention into the week. I think that is beautiful. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. I think people who should try and copy it. And really, what are you taking? 9, 10, 11, you're taking 2-3 hours out of your week, which is nothing in terms of self-care and self-love. And you are putting yourself, on the right path. And that's a beautiful process. I don't have the discipline to steal it. I would, but I hope that someone else there does, because I'll be that person on Monday hacking out still, a bunch of emails that I've thought about over the weekend, and now I'm buzzed and I want to send that all out. So, but it's a beautiful process. It's absolutely divine. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that someone will love that. So in terms of other nuggets that we can steal from you, any advice to someone looking to start their business, whatever that may be? What would be your kind of general advice?
I would say, first of all, really just trust your gut. Everything in my journey has been literally based on my gut, the way it was guiding me. And it's that navigation system that you have within yourself that is true to your truest self, right? And so I would always go with that, what is your gut telling you? And then to find people who have started their own business and set up times and talk to them, find out what worked for them. If it's especially if it's something that is aligned with your own work. So whatever that might be, someone who is successful. I had to get past speaking to men about successful in business. Didn't trust men for a very, very, very long time. And so I felt that I'd actually missed out on opportunities to really learn something because of a barrier I had put up for myself without really even being aware of it. I only became aware of it down the line. But to kind of just be open to people who have already walked the journey, yeah, and in particular, people who have walked the journey of whatever path it is you're wanting to go down, and gain the nuggets from them. Trust yourself, learn as much as you can. It's so easy these days to learn something. You can literally type something into YouTube and someone's done a video on it, and you can just, you'll find your favorite people who you can learn from, whether it's on LinkedIn or on YouTube or wherever. It's so easy these days, and so you don't even have to be paying for a lot of training, in that sense. I mean, there are some amazing courses available and so on, and if that's a resource and a way that you can go, that's amazing. But for some people, we don't have a lot of time to read, we don't have a lot of time to even really just listen, but to have a YouTube, to have somebody, that's really one of my ways at the moment. It's just really nice for me to be able to do that. Then start for the week. What is it that you want your week to look like, and start with those small goals, weekly goals and monthly goals and quarterly goals. I was really, really anti doing that in the past, but recently one of the leaders in doTERRA, she has this saying that goes something like, I don't think it's hers, but she quoted somebody saying that when you don't plan, it's like planning to fail. When you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
Yes.
And so I only really started understanding the wisdom of that in the last year or so, because everything was so in my feminine and intuition, which is great, but you need the masculine, you need that structure around that you can flow within, and we carry that within ourselves, we carry both. And so I had to learn to allow my masculine to come out more, and yes, you can totally flow within these structures and within these goalposts, and it's still all me. It's not anybody telling me what to do, but I can still plan that way. So those are some things that I feel have really helped me, and I hope will help some others along the journey as well. And to just show up even when you're feeling really shitty, and like even if you're not really believing in that moment, just to come back to the why. What is it that gets your heart on fire? Why are you doing this? Why have you chosen to go down this road? And remind yourself, because it's not always, sunshine and roses. And so we need to be able to, on those days, have that why that we can come back to, that actually just sparks the fire again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to show that self-love, maybe if you are having an off day, maybe that's the day where you shut the laptop and you go for a walk, and go for a friend with a cup of tea, someone who's supportive. So but you got to show up the next day. As long as you know that, then that's okay.
Absolutely.
You actually just reminded me, before we close up, I just have to share, we decided to watch with the kids the movie Cool Runnings. I don't know if you remember it, about the Jamaican bobsled team. And
yes,
and there are a million beautiful nuggets in that movie. It's go rewatch it. We've forgotten. And in that movie, at the end, they try and copy, the Jamaican team tries to copy how the Swiss, who are the leading kind of Olympic team, how they do it, and eins, fein, strides, and then they push the bobsled down, and so the Jamaicans kind of copy this. And then they realize that doesn't work for them. Okay. And so they go, but we're Jamaican, and the one guy is amazing, and he says, we've got to do it the Jamaican way. And they do. And so they bring this lovely Jamaican energy to the bobsled, and then they sing their own song, in their gorgeous Jamaican accent, and off they go, and they set, this record time. So it is very much that. It's like you still need to navigate the same path, that same icy slope, but how you do it in your own personal way, that is the thing that you know, makes it different. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, that I think is so true. You can totally set up a goal plan, but how you fill it in with pink pens or whatever is totally your vibe, you know, maybe some
exactly.
yeah.
And that's what makes life so fun and diverse and beautiful and different from one person to the next, and not boring.
Yeah, thank goodness. Hey, right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Joy. It's been amazing to chat to you. So now tell us, how do people get hold of you, and your products and your services and your offerings?
Okay, so I'm busy with a website at the moment. So I don't have a website yet, but I am on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram. LinkedIn and Facebook, I am JoyAnne King with the hyphen between Joy and Anne. And on Instagram, I am at JoyKingZA. And my essential oil, on Instagram, my essential oil business is called @plant Revoilution. And yeah, I mean, my offerings include all kinds of things. You can, if you want to know more about essential oils, therapeutic grade, I can tell you about that. If you're interested in building a business, I can walk alongside you with that. If you're interested in spiritual life coaching and having someone to walk a journey with you as you want to work with some things with intention, I do that on Fridays. And those are basically the three kind of prongs. If it's all essential oils, go to @plant Revoilution, and if it's everything that I offer and you just want to stay connected to me, please come to JoyKingZA on Instagram. I'm mostly there than I am on Facebook.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. That's great. I'm sure you will have many people who will be following you and connecting, because you do amazing work. So thank you so much, Joy. It's been absolutely divine chatting to you, and we'll stay in touch.
It's been an amazing afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Great stuff. Cheers.
All right, bye-bye.